He's back.
All right.
It just went
Yeah.
on both of it. And so just for everybody in the audience, this is live streaming not only on Facebook, but on YouTube. So questions that we address might be on either format. We can see all of it. Not everybody is going to, see what the other questions are. We are. And we will ask everybody any questions that you have to please capitalize it, and we will put it on the screen for anybody to address that is in this live.
All right. So we have some special guests with us today. They're from the APA members, actually board members, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yes. As what's called would like to always say during the convention. Just for people watching on the replay, we do this every Saturday. Try to do it at least every Saturday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Kind of talk about things, recaps of what happened to our lives the past month. Kind of give everybody a little bit enter our lives and whatnot. Ask us any questions and answer. We'll reply with some answers. But today we have Caitlin and Bruce. I'd like to have them kind of introduce themselves and tell their position with the APA and how they incorporate that with their job. Or when you want to go first?
Ladies first.
Sorry, you
Ladies
cut out
first,
there for a
yes.
moment.
Oh,
I'm Caitlin Caserta, and I'm from New Hampshire, and we have a farm, Walpole Valley Farms, pastured poultry, grass-fed beef, pastured pork, and turkey, and eggs as well. And we also have a bed and breakfast inn on our farm, and we started a restaurant, a farm-to-table restaurant, where we serve the majority of our meats and other local products. We started that this month, 6 years ago. So,
wow.
6 years ago. Yes. 7 years
Delicious.
ago. 7 years ago. All right. And Bruce has been there. Bruce has been
Many times.
down to see us. Yeah. And we've been at this since the early aughts. So became a bona fide farm in 2006. Started farming roughly around 2002. And then the rest is history. We're still at it. Some days are harder than others, but we'll get into that. But similar operation to what Bruce is doing. He's doing some other things, but north of us in Vermont.
And what's your position with APA?
Oh, yes. I'm in my second year as a board member on the APA board. So I've been a member of APA for many, many years. My husband, Chris, and I, and love the organization, and just so honored to be able to serve on the board.
Awesome. Good. All right, Bruce.
Yes. Well, I'm Bruce Hennessy. We're up in Richmond, Vermont, near Burlington, but not in the big city. We've been running Maple Wind Farm for the last we're in our 25th season. Started in 1999. My wonderful partner, Beth, and I started it back then as a very, very small operation. And now we've seen a lot of different changes over the years. We're a lot bigger than we used to be, but we're still not big. We're still, I would consider us a very small farm. Anyway, we do pastured poultry, daily move pasture poultry. That would be eggs and broiler chickens for meat, and turkeys. And then we do grass-fed beef as well, also daily move. And then we move our hogs over pasture as well. And I think what kind of makes us a little different than many folks is that we have our own very small USDA poultry processing plant. And that's a big part of what we do. And we do our own birds through there, around 20,000. And then we do a bunch of birds for other farms in our area throughout New England, actually. So that's a big part of it. I've been involved with APA for many years. I'm kind of I'm in the last few years of what I can serve on the board as a former president. And APA, for those of you who don't know, is American Pastured Poultry Producers Association, which is why we say APA. But but that's, so for folks that may be joining at least from our network that may not know what that means, just wanted to shout that out.
Awesome. Yeah. And so we got involved with APA, dealing with John Siskovich with all his tractors. He always talk about it in his videos about different things that he presents and things of that nature.
Our rabbit hole.
Yeah. And this year was our first experience going to a convention and whatnot. And
it was my favorite. Like, we've been to a bunch of different things, and this was the first time I went to an event where I was like, if I only had to go to an event, this would be the one that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Because there's just such a plethora of information, the camaraderie, the information sharing, the support from other people. It's not like any other experience I've ever had going to any of the events that we have spent money on. So I was telling him, like, we're trying to go into creating a business. Like, we're babies here. Old babies. Okay. We're old babies. I got grown kids. Like going into this and going to that event, I was telling him like if I'm going to spend my money, like, this is the only, like, time is money. Like, if I'm going to get a farm sitter, this is the type of event I would get a farm sitter for if I'm going to do something.
Yeah. So what I kind of want to know is, how do y'all take pasture poultry, the concepts and everything, into what y'all business life as it is right now? I know y'all raise different types of animal. Do y'all take that with other parts of the animals as well?
What do you mean?
Like, what do y'all take from the pasture poultry, the concepts and everything? What does the pasture poultry mean to y'all?
Oh, okay. Hey, you want to take a stab first, and then I'll jump in?
Sure. Well, when we got started, my husband and I were both essentially seeking to eat well, and also we were seeking to support not only our local economy and our local farmers, but also the land in which our local farmers were farming on. So initially, before we even started farming, we were purchasing pastured poultry from folks in our area. And at that particular time, in the very early 2000s, 2001, 2002, 3, there wasn't much available at all in the pastured poultry sector. Bruce, you were probably on the radar there, but you're a little too far north for us. You were small at that point.
Just getting started. Yep.
Yeah. So we could have come up there and found your stuff. But yeah, we were kind of just seeking out something that really made us feel good when we ate it, number one, and two, made us feel good about the choice we were making and where our food dollars were going and what they were actually supporting. So that's what pastured poultry means to me. It's threefold. It's stewardship of the land. Those daily moves are so important, and the land, we need to keep it in good soil for years and years and years to come, so that the generations after us will be able to eat nutrient dense food like we are now. So that was extremely important to us. And then the nutrient density in the finished product was extremely important to us. Both of us have dealt with Lyme disease, and that was one thing that our doctors said, you guys need to eat really clean right now. And if you don't, then this could be worse. If you do, then hey, you might beat this and maybe you'll get it again, but which we have. But you need to eat well. And one of those things was, if we're going to eat meat, we got to eat clean meat. So yeah. And then just keeping it local, keeping our local economy strong, and keeping our dollars here where we live, rather than heading to big, huge corporations elsewhere, and, just feeding into that whole system where food is getting trucked all over the country. And of course, we do live in a cold climate, so this is seasonal for us.
Yes, and that's one thing I liked about the APA is, my main goal was to produce a better quality, because we can't started this as foodies, and so that was one of our whole concept. And then I got all in the nerdy aspect and trying to the soil aspect, and trying to would like to improve, have that soil a better condition than what we received it in. So, and APA just fits in that whole program for me. That was one of the reasons why I jumped on. Now, you were a French teacher.
Yeah, actually, both Bruce and I were teachers. So, yeah, which is kind of funny. Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah.
I was a science and math guy. A little different than French.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Bruce, we could start a school.
That's right. You would be really successful with a school, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Foreign language and math and science. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, those were my beginnings. I did teach in the public schools here in our area for some time before starting the farm. And then we started the farm while both my husband and I still worked in our full-time jobs. Me as a teacher, and he was a financial planner working for his parents' financial planning firm. Did not love that. Felt a little bit, I guess you could say, pressured to kind of take over the family business. And so he went to school for business and then said, you know what, I just love food. And both of us worked in restaurants. So it was a foodie thing for us as well. Like you guys, just foodie.
That's our drive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, with the whole French background, I was able to study abroad in France, and he was able to study abroad in Europe. And we got really enamored with the food culture in Europe, because there's a lot of mindful chefs, and just the food culture in general. People take time not only to cultivate, but also to sit at the table and enjoy one another's company and eat together. And a meal is sacred. And so that's kind of where this all started for us. And hey, I want to stay home with our kids. Let's be homesteaders, because the cost of childcare was ridiculous in our area, and there's nowhere to send them. So you do your job for a little while, I'll stay home with the kiddos. And that's how the farm started. We wanted to feed our kids well. And, the foodie piece is huge for us because it just tastes better.
Well, our niche, you might not know this, but our niche is American breasts, chickens. So coming from like the French stuff, I'm curious. Have you ever eaten an American breast?
In France, yes. The breast, yeah. I actually haven't had it here.
Neither have I.
Yeah. Have you, Bruce?
We do.
No.
The raw milk and corn finish out, fermented finish out on our.
Nice.
That's kind of our niche right now.
I bet it tastes amazing.
Oh yeah.
We've been way into raw milk for a long time, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's a sustainable meat. So like for us, I would be happy to only have American breast chickens. Like I don't care about having all of these colorful eggs and selling eggs. Like I really love their meat. It's really good.
our one of our viewers, CC's Texas Garden, she has also a culinary degree in French cooking.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
come on up. We'd love to
amazing.
taste some of your food.
yeah. I mean, it's all
Um,
about the ingredients, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just jump on, we're both educators, and I think one of the most important things that we do is educate our communities, right?
Mhm.
And that's and my partner Beth is also an educator. We
Oh.
both have master's degrees in education,
Oh,
and we
sweet.
both taught in different kind of iterations before we started farming. And there's nothing more important than communicating, what real food is all about. That it starts
Yeah.
with the livestock that's underneath, it's below the surface of the pasture.
Mhm.
We're feeding our little microbial livestock first,
Right.
and that's what feeds everything else.
Yes.
And that's a big deal for us. Both Beth and I were vegetarians, not because we don't agree with eating meat, but because it was being raised so poorly, at least through the grocery store,
Yep.
that we felt like it was a health risk for us.
Oh, yeah.
We did
And
that.
now we
Mhm.
are, it was our decision to grow food, to raise particular, livestock proteins on pasture as a way to develop a healthy, really to develop products that were a health food rather than something you had to worry about giving what, heart disease, diabetes, cancers, those kinds of things that we find are prevalent through eating lots of the over processed foods and the kinds of meats that you'll find in the grocery store that are not sustainably raised.
Yeah.
Those
I
are the
can
big
really
things.
appreciate that.
Yeah. We were vegans for a whole year.
It had
Wow.
nothing to do with like animals.
Yeah. It started out as a contest, kind of a contest ordeal. It started off for 5 days. And then we purchased too much of the food to not have meat. So went for 2 weeks. And then we're like, oh, let's try for a month. And then we're like,
Well,
oh, let's try for a year.
No, it wasn't like let's try for a year. It was like we were really like both of us were foodies even when we started that. So we weren't like your I don't know, commercial vegans that get really fat on gluten things.
Mhm.
We were doing it like the healthy way.
Yeah.
And like really introducing ourselves to common foods that we could grow and actually make them taste really good. And we were doing that like in our very small backyard garden before we bought this property.
Yeah.
So I mean that was a great adventure for us, and it had nothing to do with the animal thing, but we just have had for a few years prior a very low confidence in what the food system has been like doing for us. And we just felt like if we were going to eat meat, we needed to raise the meat or know the person
where we got the meat from and how they raise that particular livestock.
We got funny about that, and I do think that comes from a real foodie place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all about terroir and where the food is coming from, that little microclimate almost where it's grown, and the people who have stewarded the land, and the folks who have actually brought the animals to slaughter or slaughtered them themselves. I mean, there's a whole piece. And for my husband and I, we feel like there's almost like a karmic value with what you put into your body. And, if these animals are being abused during their lives, then, that bad energy it has to go somewhere. So I just feel like a lot of the problems that we have in this country are food-based, especially with children, but also with many, many adults who just have never learned how to properly feed themselves. Not only do they not know how to feed themselves, they don't know how to cook. They don't know how to source. They don't know
good food.
What questions to ask to a farmer if they were faced with one. they're just so far removed from where food is grown and who is behind the food. I think there's almost like this void. It's like people have no idea. They just look at it in the grocery store, especially with meat. You see this styrofoam plate covered in plastic, and it's just this hunk of meat. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Yeah, exactly.
And to be fair, everybody who's going to the grocery store or goes online or does any of that is bombarded by messages from everybody, much of which is, I mean, I can only use the word deceptive in the sense that, you know, there's an awful lot of products out there that are listed as pasture raised, and they're not truly
The
pasture
labeling is very deceptive.
Yes. Labeling can be really deceptive.
Yeah.
And it's difficult for many folks. Even we have to train our staff here, even though they're really into what we're doing. We have to train our staff for them to understand the complexities of what we're doing as opposed to many other products that they can just find in the store that claim to do what we're doing.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form, but they're not really walking that talk. And so it's almost not on it's really not the consumer's fault at all. It's really this kind of massive marketing push by large corporations that's making it difficult to understand how to find and eat healthy food. Yeah.
For our viewers, how would y'all say would be a good way for them to make healthier decision, or at least ask questions to ask about where they got a person from a local farmer or seller, vendor, whatever like that? What would be a good question to ask to see if they're raising that animal correct or right, whatever?
And I just want to add on right before you answer that is that a lot of labeling, I don't have a lot of confidence in organic labeling personally, because there's a lot of like shortcuts that people are able to take. I just want to say that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would say the number one thing, and you already mentioned it, Sid, was that you have to know your farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Just get to take a moment and kind of I don't know if interview is the right word, but get to know who you're buying your food from. If you actually know that person and look them in the eye, maybe go out to their place. If it's a farm worth doing business with, buying your food from, it's a farm that will invite you or be happy to have you come visit and take a look at what they're doing. And, you know, that's the first thing that I would look for is that radical transparency.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing I would do is just define what are your most important parameters, what really makes sense for you. For us, you know, we were all organic way back when we started. And then we put it out there to our consumers as like, what's more important? We were running into extremely high prices for our organic produce, and it was being, again, greenwashed by large companies coming in and saying, yeah, we can do this, and we're organic according to the USDA version of that. And it really wasn't, you know, wasn't the spirit of what organic really meant. I mean, you can get an organic tomato now that is, you know, grown in hydroponics, which is not even in soil.
Right.
So I would say, you know your farmer, ask them questions, go out and see what they're doing, hear their story, and then make your decisions that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. And I think that some of the questions that would be common, or questions that I've heard in the past from pretty savvy customers, would be, you know, are you moving your chickens? How often are you moving them? Or when it comes to beef, for example, are you moving your cattle around? The best thing, like Bruce said, is to actually go out to the farm, smell it, see it, look at it, look around, take a peek, see what everyone is doing. You can tell if someone's lying typically. So if it's a really messy, disgusting place with, animals standing in their own feces, you don't want to buy anything from that
Yeah.
farm.
I dream for the customers that ask,
Mhm.
like care enough to ask.
Yeah.
Like we're in
Right.
a situation where like I'm having to educate them that we do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because every time somebody purchase
And they're
item
like,
from
"What?"
us, either hatching eggs or day-old chicks and stuff like that, we give them a tour first of the farm and let them know how our animals is raised and show them how often we move the chickens and stuff like that.
It goes above a lot of people's head though.
Yeah.
Definitely.
They don't even like. I feel like a lot of people don't comprehend it. It's not
Mhm.
knowledge.
No.
I think CC's Texas Garden might be, this might be for you, Kate. What is your popular bed and breakfast dish?
Well, we love to use products from the farm, of course. So we do a lot of frittatas with our eggs, and we use our pasture-raised bacon from our pigs. But the best and most popular item, I think, are our scrambled eggs with chives from the garden and cream cheese, and they're just so good.
I don't have the bed and
creamy scrambled
breakfast,
eggs.
but when we have guests, I do a quiche.
Yeah, with our duck
Duck
eggs.
eggs or geese egg quiche.
Yeah.
I bet that's good.
And what type of pigs do you raise, Kate?
Yeah, so different types. We used to farrow when we first started out, just like Bruce. Like we did everything, we did it all, and then you kind of have to rein it in.
We're
Oh,
too
yeah.
old to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you start as a homestead and you want to try everything, it's wonderful for the first X amount of years, and then you kind of realize like, hey, I'm really good at this, or I'm really good at that, or let's focus on what we're good at. So at the current time, we raise whatever pigs we can find from our local area for the most part. We have gone as far as Virginia to get pigs before piglets from what's his name, Bruce?
From Jordan?
Yeah, from Jordan Green,
Yep.
who you guys probably met at the conference. So Jordan Green's farm. But
G&L
usually
Green.
heritage breed pigs. So all sorts of pigs. Large blacks we've loved in the past. Those have been our favorite. Tamworths, all sorts, but whatever we can find in our local area. But when we raise them ourselves, we were doing Berkshire, large black, and Tamworths.
Okay.
Yeah,
We were Tamberks as well. They do really well on pasture.
Yeah, they do great.
So with being pastured, that they take a little bit longer time to grow out, or because they're a heritage?
They're about 7 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6 to 7, depending.
6 to 7, depending on what you're looking for. Like we've always wanted to do better than 200-pound hanging weight when we're done. Some people like a leaner, smaller pig, but we were looking for about 230, something like that.
Yeah,
and that would take us 7 months.
Yeah, I'm always curious about that because, you guys are in a totally different season than us.
Mm-hmm.
And in different areas, like different pigs just do better.
That's right.
Or chickens, XYZ. We were looking at
American guinea hogs.
Yeah, for our area. We're starting to do our homework because I want pigs now. I love sausage so much.
Yes. Sausage is our number one selling product on the farm.
I feel like
turkey and pork sausage. Yeah.
And Bruce's summer sausage is so good.
Oh yeah.
You'll have to prove it to me, Bruce.
Next
All
month.
right, we'll send
February, March. Bring some down.
All right, sounding good.
Next conference.
Hey, I was just saying on the chat that someone was saying, "Hey, wondering if those grass-fed folks are feeding on fertilized hay," and that's definitely a good thing to ask for sure. Sometimes tough to find if you don't make your own hay.
Yeah. So these are our friends. They're south of us. Yeah, they was. So I guess that's one of the questions. They raise a lot of cattle as well, and
Not as well. We don't. They do.
well, they raise, yeah,
Right.
yeah. But okay, I did. I'd say I wouldn't have known that. So I'm good
Mm.
job,
Well,
Monica,
it's
or
interesting. It's interesting because we, in the Northeast, we're trying our darndest not to feed a lick of hay at all.
Yeah.
So what we've gone to, and this is not perfect, I have to say, you guys, being in the farming business, it's hard to be completely pure. There is always some kind of trade-off that you're making
Hmm.
about things. So we have, because hay is so expensive and it's basically not, it's just not a viable business model in the Northeast
Yeah.
to kind of go cow calf all the way to, conception to consumption. Um, we've gone to buying heavy feeders and finishing them on grass. We have literally the best grass in the world,
Hmm.
the best pasture in the world for about 3 months. And
yeah.
then it's over.
We do. It's so true. It is.
It is really true. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Like right now, it is. You've
It's
never,
lush and
you
beautiful.
wouldn't believe how good it is right now.
Oh yeah.
And in about 3 months, it's not going to be like that.
There's nothing left.
But with
It's so
that,
true.
You only
Bruce,
get
I was
one
just
set
talking.
per then, huh?
Yeah, there was this woman who came out. She's doing a study about New England beef and grass-fed beef, and if it's a viable product for New England. Very interesting topic. So her whole study is about whether or not, like, she'll compile the results, so on and so forth. But in any event, she's trying to figure out whether or not New England is ripe for just grazing and then moving cattle on elsewhere where there's more grass. And
Right.
it's a very interesting concept because I think about this all the time. My husband and I also had a cow calf operation when we first started out. I told you we did everything. We did it all. Too much to the point of burnout. So in any event, we had a Devon bull and we were raising these amazing.
Me too.
Yes. And Bruce was doing the same thing. And we were so passionate about this. And we had amazing calves. And I know you guys did too, just beautiful cows.
Yeah.
But the amount of grass and the amount of land that you need in order to keep these cows going 365 is intense, especially in New England where you have to rely on fossil fuel, all the hay that you have to buy and stockpile. And you have to start getting this, in the summer, you have to start getting bales and putting them up. And then you have to feed them out. And there's also a huge plastic issue with the round hay bales. We were lucky enough to be able to hay ourselves for the first probably 5 years. And then we were buying hay from our neighbors. He's just across the road and he's haying so many people's fields for them, which is wonderful. But it's just expensive and labor intensive, and the fossil fuel impact is crazy. 1 year we actually stockpiled grass. We let it grow really high and let our cows winter graze in a section of our farm, which worked really well. And it was wonderful for the soil because we were just rolling out round bales on the snow. And these cows didn't even want the dry hay. They wanted the grass that was still growing. And they were just kind of kicking the snow out with their snouts and eating the grass that was still standing. It was amazing. So pretty cool, but we just don't have enough land to do that anymore. So
Yeah,
we're in cattle country.
Yeah.
And we knew when we got our property, we were never going to have cows.
Yeah, so we decided to go with the smaller livestock, or either goats.
Yeah.
Now it's the sheep.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into sheep. We haven't gotten them yet. We already know what we want. Like we're in the older generation, so like we do a lot of homework something.
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
We're all
we want to learn from y'all mistakes, so we don't make the same mistake.
we're
Yeah, homework.
a little wisdom enough to like make sure we have mentors.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I will say this: it's super important. Like one of the big things that you get into farming at all, or even homesteading, whatever, the whole idea of holistic management, without the W, that holistic management that we've all read about, really talks about staying within your resource base.
Yeah.
So knowing what your resource base is and then fitting your enterprises to that resource base is super important. And I just learning that lesson has maybe been a little tough because we wanted to do things that didn't really fit our resource base. Like, I hayed for 17 years.
Yeah.
We made 1,000 round bales a year. I don't even know how I did that. So I think it makes sense. I personally think it makes sense, at least on the cattle end of things. And I know this isn't really a cattle show, but
Oh no, it's a rotational
It's a
grazing.
rotation.
right. So I mean, from a regenerative point of view, I feel like it's great to have regional partnerships. Like we buy from folks who can graze their cattle year round, but they have terrible pasture when we have great pasture.
Yeah.
So we buy heavy feeders from, kind of the mid-Atlantic Atlantic region, bring them up here, finish them on amazing Vermont or New England grass. And I feel like that's the best of all worlds right there.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah, our friend right here is talking about they rotate their cattle as well, and it's a lot of work, but it's so worth it once you
That's right.
eat off of your own animal that you raise.
And we are in an area where we don't have, like the shorter season like you guys do.
Right.
It was actually kind of a shock for people last year to have an issue with grass.
Yeah, that drought.
Yeah, the drought last summer was a shock to a lot of people. To actually, like, people were lining up to sell their cattle. Like, it was crazy here in Texas to watch that. We've just been getting our feet warm with poultry, like between chickens and ducks and geese, and we're just about to get our feet into lamb. We were thinking about goats, but our property is better set up for lambs.
Yeah, sheep.
And
Yeah.
if I'm gonna buy meat, I usually buy sheep. That's my fancy meat. So like on our property setup, it's a good setup for us. But
and there's no better way to build soil and build fertility and create a spectacular, diverse environment in your pasture for other animals than running poultry over it every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, that'll build your pasture faster than anything else you can do in the grazing.
Yeah.
Stuff,
The 2 years we've been here, the first year was nothing but thistles and weeds and stuff on our property.
It's been different every year.
Yeah.
It's so weird to look at it now.
Yeah.
And
It's really amazing to watch that change. And when we saw that with our grazing, not only the poultry, but also pigs and cows, it was like night and day.
Yeah.
Previous farmers on the farm that we are farming they were open grazing 130 dairy cows. So it's a big difference. So you can just imagine the weeds.
They were continuous grazing, yeah?
Everywhere.
Yes.
Now, Bruce, you was talking earlier about the whole organics with the USDA stuff. Is the APA coming out with some for a certification program with the pasture poultry that our viewers can know about or coming in the works later on?
And
go ahead.
Now, I'm sorry, before you answer that, we have friends that are also in APA that have been educating us a little bit more about FARFA.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how that comes together.
So right now, the EPA board for several years has been working with the American Grass Fed Association, and to craft a standard that for pasture raised poultry in all spheres, meat, eggs, turkeys, ducks, you have it, and that's about to come out now. So it's all voluntary. There's no, you can be a part of APA and not be AGA certified for pasture poultry.
Oh yeah, certified.
So AGA, but you can get. As a matter of fact, I think they're going to be looking for some pilot farms to take the plunge and become certified.
Hey.
There you go.
Pilot.
They want to try it out and see how it goes. But we've been heavily involved in helping to craft that standard. We try to be a little bigger tent. I mean, we realize that there's so many. Each farm has different challenges and issues. So not everyone's going to, what we try to do is craft something that fits many different operations across the country,
geographically,
and the world, geographically. So it's really, it's going to be pretty exciting, I think, when it comes out. A lot of folks kind of chafe against some third party coming in and taking a look at their operation and telling them whether they pass or not. I completely understand that.
I think it's a healthy challenge, though.
It is. A lot of people may decide, hey, I'm going to look at those standards and see if I can meet them, and I don't need anyone to come and tell me whether I'm meeting them or not.
Yeah.
I'll just do it for myself, and I can talk to my customers and tell them about how I'm doing with it. We used to be certified. Well, we still are certified organic. Our pastures are certified. We do not sell any certified product currently. We are certified processor, and our pastures are certified organic. But we are a non-GMO pasture-raised product for all of our animals, except for cows, who are 100% grass-fed. That's it.
Okay. How was that whole certified organic process?
That seems like, I guess that's an intimidating.
It is.
Goal for me.
It's some paperwork. We got into it because we used to do organic vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
We also did that for it was 16 years, not 17. We were also an organic vegetable producer. Yeah.
Very curious about that because we practice organic methods.
Yeah.
But we don't want to go through the whole certification because with us being the content creators, I'm scared that we might use some that's not organic.
Right.
Like, so
So there's something to do with that. Here's the thing. If your market are people that you talk to and have relationships with, and you can tell them exactly what you do, and this is, we use these methods, and you have the kind of relationship where they know you, I don't think you need the certification.
That's the question I really had, because
you don't need it.
I've been on the fence, like, is it worth it? Is it even worth going through getting that?
It's not worth it unless you're going to be kind of play in the wholesale market.
Unless I'm going to sell to Whole Foods, right?
Right. You're going to sell to Whole Foods, or you're going to sell to your local health food co-op or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think it's
where they need to show that label, and they're trying to make that. They're trying to, they want to have those attributes in their store.
Yeah.
And you don't have a relationship with the end consumer.
If I was going to go through the efforts to travel to the Dallas Farmers Market, I might do something like that, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So that's like, I think for most people, it's probably not worth it.
cost wise.
Well, I agree. And it's all about your relationship marketing, like Bruce said. If you're creating relationships with the folks that are buying your product, they're going to ask the right questions. They're going to come out to your place and they're going to see what you're doing. It's all about that complete transparency with everything that you do. And if you have that, there shouldn't be a reason why you need that stamp of approval, because that's just, the USDA coming, okay, yep, it's good.
Yeah. I feel like we have years of transparent video documentation on our channel showing.
Yeah. And it's hard too, because the USDA organic stamp of approval is the same stamp of approval for you doing what you're doing, which is beyond the standard in many ways. And then you've got, industrial organic, it's the same stamp. So that's tough sometimes. So I think if you ever wanted to go down that road, I would go more with like the Real Organic Project, which is, a nonprofit that's, really focusing on the beyond the standard, the USDA.
I haven't heard of that. Can you tell me? Have you heard about it? Can you tell me?
It's just called the Real Organic Project, and it's a nonprofit that's really gaining headway. And they're dealing with folks like us who are, doing the right thing anyway. And maybe you are USDA certified organic, but they also come in and it's like an added layer of approval, because a lot of people aren't trusting the USDA organic label anymore, because industrial organic does fall under that same label. So a lot of farmers in our area are starting to seek that out if they're organic farms. So
I would say that, there's, for instance, like, organic eggs. There is no requirement for those birds to ever go outside.
Right.
That is it's the weirdest
ridiculous
thing.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. So for us to be part of that standard, where they're not even they're required to have a porch that has open air around it, but they're never out on a blade of grass.
Right.
Wow.
They're not required to be. Right.
Yeah.
So it's really it's a little bit insidious, and it is, I have to say, it's the USDA organic standard has been co-opted by big business.
Yeah.
I think it's also insidious.
And that's why the Real Organic Project came through. It's all farmers trying to say, hey, wait a minute, there's actually a higher standard.
Mm-hmm.
I think the term, another insidious term for me has been free range.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we do pasture raised, in fencing that we're like moving. And it's way like a lot of people don't understand how much healthier that is than free range,
or what free range even really means. Because
or cage free.
Right.
Free range doesn't mean that they ever get outside.
Yeah, like ours have sun every day. They have grass every day. Yeah.
What's great on our farm is that our farm abuts plenty of other farms, and the farm to the south of us has 2 huge chicken barns, and you can see them from our lowest field where we graze our chickens, or where we move our chickens in mobile range coops. And when I give people a farm tour, I say, okay, now look over there. See those 2 big barns? And I said, that is a big egg company. And there's a little door on the side, and those are free range chickens in there. And they're like, what? What do you mean free range? I don't see any chickens. I'm like, no, you don't see any chickens. They're not coming outside because they opened that door like 6 weeks or 7 weeks after they were feathered out. And I don't know, they don't even go outside. So that's right next door to our farm. And I won't even mention the name of the producer, because it is a big name. And Anyway, their egg boxes say free range. Let's
No,
just put
I feel like it's important for people that are practicing what we're practicing to educate on terminology and what that means. And we do, as content creators, like share very transparently like how our animals are, what we're doing with our animals, to try to show people like, like this is what we're doing. Because I feel like most people are visual learners, and unless they see that they don't really know, and do the little educational reels that we do,
Yeah, and that's one thing I like about APA is the morning emails that you get for once you're joined with the APA. They'll give, sometimes they'll have blogs or questions and stuff like, and everybody just chimes in and just tells their experience and stuff like that. So you just get a lot more information than just YouTube or Facebook groups and stuff like that.
I highly encourage people to become members.
The listserv is spectacular.
So we got Greg here. He said, we recently purchased 20 acres. We're looking to use 10 to 12 of that rotational grazing pasture. We will not be living on the property full time for about 2 years. What's the best way to get started comparing the land? Currently, the other 19-acre grows Bermuda. Want to keep it organic and chemical free as possible. Danny in Sulphur Springs. Oh, that's south of us.
That's just south of us. So that should be a little bit easier for them in Texas. Keep that up there.
Yeah. So what would y'all thoughts be for them? I guess another good question would be, what are they going to raise and what?
Yeah. What type of grazing?
There's some things you wouldn't want to raise on that small acre. I don't think you'd want to. I think you'd want to not head in the direction of large ruminants. I think you'd want to stay away from that. Yeah. I think the best. I don't know. I said it before. If I know there's an issue with you not being right on the land, and that can be a problem.
Yeah.
But what I think I would start with daily move pastured poultry, honestly.
Yep.
And what you're going to do is you're going to build soil with that group. You're going to add fertility. It's going to grow a tremendous amount of grass. And if you did it, if you did it in chicken tractors, which you could do fairly small scale and use that 10 to 12 acres, gosh, you could do a lot of chickens there.
Oh, yeah.
That's also not full time. So you could, depending on how many chickens you wanted to do and what kind of market you were building, you could do a nice little business there and spend a couple hours a day, maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, moving those chickens, taking them off. You've got processing nearby out at Windy Meadows. You could do broilers and do it seasonally when, maybe in the cooler months.
Yeah.
And you'd end up in 2 years, that property would look completely different than what it does right now. And then you could decide to bring in sheep the way the naked gardeners are doing.
No, we've been documenting how differently, like with drones and like looking at our property for us, like we've been documenting how different our property has been changing and improving. I mean, like it really has made a difference moving the animals on the property, because before we moved here, the previous owners, and mind you, it's only 6.5 acres that we're on. The previous owners were here for 25 years and they never had animals or anything like that. They were allowing people to come and cut their hay, like strip the area. So it was never like grass that was feeding the soil or, like anything like that. So we just surpassed our 2nd year of actually allowing the grass to be cut and like the animals to move and be feeding the soil, and it's changing.
Putting that carbon back into the soils instead of taking all that nutrients out of the soil.
It's
and
really cool to see it change. Yeah, it just takes time. I mean, like when you get into this kind of thing, the way that we are, don't expect big things until like 3 to 5 years. I feel like,
Yeah. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
So it depends on it. Depends on where you are. Up in New England, you can see results pretty quickly, like within a year or two. Maybe in a more brittle environment out west or down in parts of Texas and stuff, it might take a little longer.
Yeah, about 3 years.
Yeah. So I think that's that's part of the business, and you are there for the long haul. And if you're building soil, then you're making an investment in the future for sure.
That's our feeling. Like we're in our third. What is this? Our third garden? Third summer garden? Yeah, it's our third summer garden. It it is phenomenal. Like this year, what's growing is like gigantic and like.
We haven't disturbed the soil whatsoever.
Yeah, just from our building.
Yeah.
Because we do the lasagna method.
Yeah, we just keep on adding organic matter onto it and stuff.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Yeah, we've been doing that for years, and it's like the no-till or lasagna. I like that, the lasagna method. I haven't heard of that before. I love it. yeah, I'm going to use that.
It is a perfect, like for us, it's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
I would say this. I just added in something else here because this is a little more cutting edge. Is that as we've been grazing for 25 years and we've seen a lot of improvement on our pastures, but we're starting to plateau a little bit. And one of the reasons that we're plateauing is that we don't have enough diversity of plant life in our pastures. So we've taken to planting in different kinds of perennials that are not grasses, they're not legumes. They might be forbs and they're deep rooted, so they're tapping down and bringing up nutrients from the depth of the subsoil. This is an amazing fact. Each new seed has over 1 billion different microbes that are different from any other seed that you find out. So for instance, grass seed microbiomes are basically the same. Legume microbiomes are basically the same. Now, if you put a whole new different kind of plant in your field that's also nutritious to cattle, to chickens, to pigs, whatever you're running, and especially to goats, I just saw that Greg was talking about that. Boy, I tell you, that just explodes the diversity in your pasture and it starts to build soil even faster. So what we've done is we've done this rip sowing where we're breaking through the hard pan of when we drive on our fields, we're compressing the soil down a little bit, and that makes it hard for certain plants to get started. So we're just sending these very narrow shanks down in and making a deep furrow just to access that subsoil and putting a seed in there that is growing down and bringing up minerals and nutrients from the subsoil. And it's a different kind of plant, which is increasing the diversity of our pasture. And that's kind of next level stuff, but it's something to think about as you get started with your new land, you guys. Is you want to promote that diversity. You want to promote flowering plants that are going to serve those pollinators out there, those are the animals that keep everything running.
Who do you go to access information for your area for like what to plant?
Well,
the extension or
it could be an extension, but I would go beyond that. I would be looking to those. I would be going to Soil for Climate. I'd be going to
Soil for, is that like a website or?
Yeah, in a group.
We met somebody at the APA conference.
Yes.
That was telling us about like they have like a
pasture seed company or something. I forgot the name of them.
Yeah, it's something that we need to actually do for our fields.
So just thinking about increasing the diversity in your pasture And if you do a little bit of that, it'll go a long way. I guarantee. I mean, it will.
I feel like it would.
It just will jumpstart everything in there.
Yeah. We got Jessica wants to know, do folks here choose poultry breeds based on the sort of native relationship to your specific environment?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want something that is heat tolerant, freeze tolerant, because we have freezes and like heat waves, like 115 degrees last summer.
Yeah.
Right. We didn't lose any animals based on our decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
What chickens do y'all raise?
We run we do run Cornish cross for our broilers, and we're golden comets or production reds for our layers.
Golden comets, write that down.
Yeah, golden comets. That's a production red. It's a rock six-point cross.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're pretty standard brown egg layer, but we get them with their beaks intact for grazing, and they're amazing on pasture. They're so hardy, and they lay like crazy, and they're
people can take their beaks off.
Yeah, when you buy ready to lay hens, oftentimes because they're raised in these large houses for the first months, a lot of these outfits will actually debeak them, which is awful. So actually, Bruce and a couple
even
other
chicks,
farms,
even day old chicks, they
chicks, yeah,
they debeak day old chicks.
Never heard of this.
yeah, it's pretty awful.
It's standard. It's standard procedure in most hatcheries. Yeah, they debeak.
This has got to be
Well, they just take the little sharp nub off, so that if they peck at their neighbor, they're not hurting their neighbor. That's basically it. It's designed for crowded conditions. You know, or
So
that
that's the industry.
Practice. Yes, that's the industry.
Yeah.
So we'd have fully beaked, and that to me is a better choice than almost any other breed that we could do for our country. And they do have multiple strains of Cornish cross. You know, the knock on Cornish cross, they don't graze, they don't move, and that's just not the case. I mean, I've got tons of video evidence of our broilers grazing away and paying no attention to the supplemental grain that they have in their MRCs.
I want that strain, Bruce. Let me know what strain that is.
Well, you should talk
Cornish crosses.
Yeah, you should. I get it. I've seen what you're talking about. This is a little hardier breed. Sometimes they're called production whites because they are white feathered. They grow a little slower, but they're very robust. And it's not that we don't have any mortality. We do, but it's pretty reasonable.
A question I have, since we're on this topic, and you guys have a lot more experience with like Cornish crosses, is I've heard from some people that do like just all male Cornish crosses. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
We do straight run, which is both.
Yeah.
We like a variety. We think that's a little more natural environment for them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And we're lucky because if you own your own processing, you can decide.
Yeah, you are lucky on that.
Yeah.
That's one of the big reasons we did that. We have the flexibility to say that bird's not ready, and that bird is ready, even though they're only 6 weeks old. That kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So we can easily do that.
I'm super curious, like what the process was for you to become your own process, USDA processor. Like, was that like a whole nightmare for you?
Well, it was I think we would have just stopped doing poultry. We would have still done eggs. We still would have done egg laying and stuff like that because we could do it at scale. But in Vermont, you can only do exempt processing for up to 1,000 birds. So it's not a business.
Here Here
It's
too.
not a business. Yeah. So when we had a mobile processor that was doing state inspection around the state. They went out of business, and we said, this is our chance right here. We have to do this, or we need to stop doing Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm super curious about that.
Was that you? Did you start that?
It's her fault.
Sorry. It's her fault. No, it's my fault. Hey, socks. Sorry.
Oh, you were gonna blame it on her. Okay, I see you, Bruce. I see you, Bruce.
It's all my fault.
So before we wrap it up here, can you tell our viewers some of the benefits of joining with Apple and what
Like, why should they join?
Yeah.
I'm going to deal with my dog problem for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Sorry, Bruce.
It's on you, ma'am.
That was Bruno. He got excited, and now Bruce's dog is
Got yours started
funny.
too.
a video dog park. Well, I can say lots of good things about APA and why you joined, but I think the most beneficial, especially for folks who are just starting out or are in maybe year 2 or 3 or 4, even 5, the message board on APA is gold. You're going to have information from producers all over the country, big and small. Maybe someone has had a similar problem to you and they can answer that question immediately. You're just tapping into this wealth of information that you wouldn't have if you weren't a member. It's not the shameless plug, but when I read all the info, I'm like, wow. Even now, we'll have a random question here and there. And yeah, we have people that we can text about things, but when you read the APA board, you're like, all right, dealt with that one. Yep, dealt with that one. Ooh, have never dealt with that. I was on Ask APA the other night and somebody was talking about some type of fly. I can't remember the name of it. It's a black fly.
A botfly.
Yeah, and they were killing their turkeys. And that's so terrible. Like, we've never dealt with that where we are, but I couldn't answer the question. But little things like that, like somebody is going to have a similar situation to you always.
Oh, yeah. Okay. The buffalo fly.
Yes.
Buffalo
Yeah.
fly.
Yeah. Awful.
Yeah.
I've
So
never heard that.
I would say the same thing. It's just a community, and they're living the same big summits and terrible valleys that we all go through. So it's a tremendous community that will help you through just about anything. That I think that's the biggest part of it for me. You asked before the dog started barking that, how was it a big problem to do our own inspected poultry processing? And it would have been, except that APA was right there with a lot of people who could just answer any question that I had.
Okay.
And so, yeah. So and paying it forward, now I'm doing the same thing as a board member at the conference with other people who are just starting their processing space.
Yeah.
And so it's just that kind of community where it's not about, we're not competing with each other. We're not doing any of that kind of stuff. It's all about, raising the rising tide raises all boats. That kind of philosophy.
I love that.
Yes. And
that's what you guys loved about the conference. I remember you speaking about that. You felt like there were no questions that were off limits. There was always someone to answer it, and everyone is an equal, and we're able to help each other out. There's no competition. It's just, hey, we're all in this.
We're very supportive of the other people. Like, even as content creators, we mentor people that are trying to do content, like creation. It's like it's a cheering base. We never come from a place of inferiority. We always come from a place of, like boosting somebody, you know. So it's really nice to, and that was something that really drew me. Like that was my first conference that I went to with APA, and it was such a positive experience for me because it's my vibe. It is my vibe to cheer for other people.
Yeah.
It's my vibe to share information. It's what we've been about. So it's the first event that we went to that, like, this is our jam. Like, this is, you know, because we've been to like conferences and all kinds of stuff where it seemed like it was like, you know, it wasn't the community I felt. APA. And something I would like to say as a first time participant of APA is a lot of people are like, oh, it's all about chickens. No, like these people pigs, these people do cows. This philosophy they are doing with multiple animals. So don't think that you are only going to go there and learn about stuff for your chickens. No, you're going to meet people that know a lot more than you do about pigs and cows and ducks and, you know, like other animals, even though it's pastured poultry.
Yeah, the main topic is pastured, but you can take that.
You're going to connect with people that know a lot.
Not only that, but you'll learn how to actually run a farm as a business. And for us, that's extremely important.
Yeah,
I think it's because none of us exist if we can't be sustainable financially.
Right.
While doing while doing the great work that we're doing by moving chickens over pasture daily, we need to, it's kind of almost like it's a sacred duty to be profitable, to become profitable, to prove that it can be done profitably.
Yeah,
I hope to do that one day.
Yeah,
right.
That was a big thing I loved about the business aspect of the whole APA ordeal, and the whole mindset of, you know, you got to learn to keep track of all your expenses and this and that to know if you're even profitable or not.
We had no idea like what something that's really important about being a part of APA is learning like what the market is, like what your marketable cuts are. We were surprised about what marketable cuts were.
Yes, for chicken, I was like,
white meat, that's really boring.
The highest selling thing, and the thighs and the quarters and the legs.
The stuff we really like is not that.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean that just opened up our eyes and everything of that nature.
But I left the event feeling like if I can only like go to one event a year,
we were already after the conference. We were like, okay, we're definitely going next year.
This is the
priority.
So, Kate, I don't know. Were you at the first one? I think Chris was too.
Yeah, we were both there. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were at the very first one, which was just like 30 people in a rodeo. Little rodeo conference space or something. But the key was that the conference was a conference about nothing. And the whole idea behind that was that it wasn't just a bunch of talking heads getting up there, and that it was really farmer driven, and that the ideas everyone who came there had burning questions about their operation. And they also had the expertise to answer other people's burning questions.
Yeah.
And that's what we've evolved since then. So we have a few talking heads. It's true. But it's largely still, we still leave a lot of space for just like, hey, what haven't we covered and what can we cover right now? Yeah. What's really getting your dander up, so to speak, and how can we help you solve your problem?
And I think one thing I walked away from the event was because as far as like, a lot of people seem to be from certain areas, right? There's totally different issues based on if you're from the area you're at versus, where we're at. So, it would be nice to like, like I walked away from the conference. Some of the only things I was thinking, like it would be nice to have like a topic addressed just for, like our very specific growing region, the weather that we deal with. You guys deal with different issues, right?
But at the same time, we're all dealing with that question. Hey, when is it time to get an employee?
Yeah.
And then once you have that employee, how do you treat them? What does that relationship need to look like to be successful?
Yeah.
How do you
important topics?
Yeah. How do you run your business and not completely burn yourself out?
Yeah.
What are the systems you need to put in place? All of those things are common amongst all of those businesses. And so there's a lot of commonality, even though we're from different regions and we do have different issues. And it's really cool to be able to talk to people who have similar experiences, then to get together, because everybody has those other issues. We had Dave Pratt at the conference. Dave Pratt was a former owner of Ranching for Profit, which is a tremendous. If you have an opportunity to take that course, you need to. And I have no affiliation other than we've been through it, and it's amazing.
What was it?
Ranching for Profit.
And as someone who's known Bruce for a long time, I can attest to the fact that his business, from the outside looking in, has completely changed and grown in a way that I feel like people want to support even more than they did before. And I feel as though Bruce and Beth were really successful prior to going to Ranching for Profit, but I see the difference in what they're doing now
more like
versus what they were doing before. And I think there's like even more of a meaning that's outwardly shown to their customers than it was before. Does that make sense, Bruce?
It does, and thank you for saying
Mr.
that.
OCD doing some homework over here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the big things. So Dave Pratt was there, and he just handed it off to another great guy, but he was a keynote at our conference a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And what he says is that all problems are people problems. Even the problems with your management in the field is actually a people problem. And that to me was like a huge transformation for us. It's like, it's really about us training people well and appropriately and giving them the tools that they needed to be successful working for us, right?
Yeah. And we've seen it because we have the 3 different businesses. We've seen problems at the farm that we don't see at our restaurant and that we don't see at our inn. So we've had to look at each different business with a different lens. How do we deal with employees and SOPs, for example, with this business versus this other business that's a clock in, clock out, pretty straightforward set of not only rules, but set of hours. Whereas on a farm, there's no, you're working until the work is done. So
very different
it's been very, very different and difficult and painstaking for us to kind of work through, like, why is one business working so well and the other one is so hard to manage? And so that piece alone, I was definitely one of the people rah-rahing the whole, like, let's talk about employees and how to bring them on, how to onboard everybody, how to, even how to conduct an exit interview, like everything. Like, it's just so important. And when you work on a farm, that work is so important, but it's also so grueling, and it's hot and it's sticky and it can be dirty and there's a lot of emotion in it. So
some Texans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys know exactly how it is. And so those employees need to be held and treated wonderfully, and you have to have a really close relationship with them. And that relationship for us, we've known over the past few years, we've noticed has to be nurtured in a different way than a restaurant employee, for example, because they're there for 3 hours and then they're gone. At the farm, it's a very different situation. You know, you're in the trenches and you're dealing with life and death. So it's a different situation. So different set of.
Yeah. It really is different. And for some reason, we all think, hey, it's a farm. It's not a business. It's our lifestyle. It's our lifestyle. It's not a business.
There's a disconnect.
That's a mistake. Yeah. That's a mistake, I think.
Yeah.
It's got to be both. It really does.
Yeah. And when we had, what was his name that worked with Pat in Rhode Island, Jason, the lean man.
Yes. Yep.
That was amazing too. I feel like I learned a lot about just lean business and how to reduce your steps and how to make everything more efficient. And
does he have a book out? Because I was doing an audio book about lean farming. I was listening to an audio book about lean farming.
Yeah, probably not the same guy.
Okay.
But, there is a great lean farming book, which is more vegetable focused, which is awesome. I've been to that farm. It's amazing. And I will say that the whole concept of lean has completely revolutionized our business.
Ben Hartman of the Lean Farm.
Yes.
yeah.
Ben Hartman out in Indiana. And they do a tremendous, boy, it's a heck of a farm. If you ever get out there, you got to visit it.
Yeah.
But,
and Bruce, isn't it true that every state has lean teachers to come in and teach in manufacturing and anything, and you can apply it to your farm as well? And that's how we got initially hooked up with him. Yeah,
so I think they're MEPs that they're called. They're manufacturing extension programs.
Mm-hmm.
And, we don't think of ourselves as manufacturers, but we are actually, right? We are. If we're taking chicken from day-old chicks or even from eggs and moving those up to somebody's plate, there is a great amount of that is manufacturing. Yeah. Even with eggs, I mean, our egg washing process, we literally cut our time in half by going through lean principles. Mm-hmm. We used to do egg wash of about 7,000 eggs in 5 hours, and now we do it in about 3.5.
Nice.
Wow.
That's just through lean. That's just through lean principles.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and they
you don't think it's going to make a difference? It makes a huge difference.
Huge difference. Yeah, it's everything from keeping tools in every spot, like a hammer in every mobile range coop. It's amazing because it can save you the steps. Like, if you have to go all the way back to the barn, which could be far, you're going to waste all that time going back just because you forgot the hammer. So it's just really simple things.
Yeah.
Right. So keeping one in all your spots and it's designated, it's so important and it can save you so much time. And and then you can do other things.
Yeah.
Right.
You can get more ducks. You can get some sheep.
Before we close out, we did have a question from Jessica Coslow asking if there's does APA have a specific hiring platform that members can use if looking for help or looking for work? What information would you have for her?
Well, we do have the APA Grit, which is what does it come out every 2 months? Okay, it's bi-monthly. Mm-hmm. It's a bi-monthly a publication that you can get either digitally or as a paper version mailed to you, and that has a classified section where you can you can put up for a job looking for help, or you can also offer yourself up as a potential employee somewhere. There's also the listserv, or the message board that Kate was talking about. That thing, You can have that all over the country in seconds, and
Yeah.
people will pass it on for you. They'll do whatever they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll probably on the listserv get a bunch of advice on what else you can do, what other people are doing to find help.
Right.
Like we've just recently entered the whole sphere of getting H2A workers from out of the country because we can't find anybody to, or we're having extreme problems finding anybody who wants to process chicken in our area. And so that's just one part of what we do, and many other farms do in our area anyway,
Mm-hmm.
to try to actually get the work done, right?
Yeah.
And how to effectively use things like ZipRecruiter and Indeed and those kinds of online platforms that we use all the time now. So
Yeah, we initially started with kind of like a Salatin style internship apprenticeship program, which was really wonderful. And it was just young people who were mostly on college break and would come and have a place to live and a nice paycheck. And it was a good situation for a while. But that was also when our children were young and we were happy to have people in our house all the time. And, things got bigger and people came in our driveway all the time. And then our privacy started to become an issue. So we've moved away from that particular labor situation, and we have full-time folks who come and either maybe they live on the farm, maybe not, usually just local people. We've actually downsized a fair bit this year, which has been really nice for our family. We are kind of going through a little bit of a change again as we've grown. And we're really just focusing on raising just enough meat for our restaurant and for our loyal customers and for our families. So
I think that's
so kind of, shrinking down from where we were. We're like, you know what? We can't feed everyone. We're burning ourselves out, and it's just
to have a demand. And fulfill like what you need for your needs. Because I feel like it's overwhelming to try to have this idea that I'm going to feed everybody. My feeling is that like I want, to fulfill, like the audience that wants, the people that want or that's invested in us, that story and has been following our journey. Those are the people that I want to fulfill, but definitely a community as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still kind of navigating that balance for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is tricky because you can kind of get carried away too because you're so excited and passionate about what you're doing, and then maybe there's an opportunity to sell more, or maybe there's a restaurant that loves your product, or maybe there's an aggregator who wants your product. And that was our situation. We're like, oh well, let's try that, and we've tried a lot of things, and at this particular point we're kind of just scaling back and getting back to basics and figuring out what works the best for us for more seasonal farm.
I didn't realize the blessing for us, even on our small 6.5 acres, we're on unrestricted lands, unrestricted area. So I feel like we're kind of like in the beginning planning stages of what we're going to do business wise, selling from our property off of a main road. So like we're kind of like every situation's different. And so we have to plan from that. I'm even like considering, certain days doing like a breakfast thing, for, so.
I will say this, Beth and I give occasional presentations to different conferences and things like that. And we have a slide that we always show, which is our land of misfit enterprises. it's like 7 or 8 pictures of all the things that we've tried that we don't do anymore.
That was going to be my next question. Like,
What did you fail at?
to close this out,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that we were just talking about? Y'all just wanted to jump in and try to do everything. What are some of the things y'all jumped in and no longer do, and what was the reason for that?
You want to go, Bruce, or do you?
I'll continue with my thought there. And so, many of us who get into farming we're so excited about all the different things. Like I would have loved to have done a small micro dairy and made cheese and did all these different things. And for a while there, that's what we tried everything. We did maple sugaring. We did have a little raw milk co-op at one point. We did organic vegetables for many years. We did conception to consumption hogs and beef and sheep for the longest time. And I will say that it was the reason that happened is because we did not have a coherent vision for what we wanted the farm to look like, for exactly what we wanted to do and how that fit into our personal lives and the resource base that we had, all those things. We didn't do that. And that's the reason we had so many things that we tried and then had to stop because we just didn't make sense for us. And to a certain extent, you do have to try some things. But if you sit down with whoever you're doing this with and you come up with a solid vision and write it, in 5 years, this is where we want to be, and write it as if it's already happened and narrow it down to say, these are the things that matter most to us, both personally and professionally and for our community. Then you're going to have less of those. I'm not saying you're not going to have any, but you're going to have a lot less of those kinds of things. So let me save you the trouble of having that slide of, because we all, farmers are the eternal optimists. Oh, of course I can make that work. And of course, and it's the coolest thing. And I'm going to close the loop on all of our fertility on the farm. And I'm going to, have the animals help our vegetables, help, our animals, all this stuff. And it was great on paper. But once we sat down and really refined our vision, it became clear the things that had to go and the things that had to stay. So
we've been doing Excel spreadsheets like on everything
and keeping track
too,
of
because we're in that examination process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if a lot of farmers don't have the time, feel like they don't have the time to do that work.
Mm-hmm.
It's called working on your business rather than working in your business. Right? So if you don't work on your business, you're going to end up having a lot of things that eventually don't work. You have to do that work. You have to do that mission, your vision. You have to figure out, how you're going to treat your employees and how you're going to train your employees. All those things are working on your business, working towards the future rather than what has to happen right now, putting out those fires every day.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can find that time, for us, we try to find a couple mornings a week, which is really hard to do, but we try to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that. I'll let Kate sound off on that one.
What
Yeah,
about
you get to close it out, Kate.
Oh, yay. So, yeah, pretty similar situation of Bruce. Just, the eternal optimist. We want to try it all. Homesteading on speed, just everything. So we used to raise grass-fed lamb, and we pretty much failed at that. Not because we didn't do a good job and not because the lamb didn't taste amazing, but because it just wasn't a profitable product for us. We just couldn't get the weights on grass alone with the breeding stock that we were using to finish out consistently. So
Agreed.
yeah, so we were actually raising rams from a dairy, sheep dairy in Vermont, and they were wonderful, wonderful dual purpose breed sheep. But
Was it
we
sheep?
just weren't getting the weights that we wanted to get. So I would go with hair sheep if I ever did it again, I think.
Well, we had hair sheep and we couldn't get our
We
weight.
couldn't get it either? Okay.
Nope.
All right, forget it, Bruce.
We did it for 10
and
years and we couldn't get our weights up.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah, it's tricky. It's pretty hard. And we did not want to grain them. So
Right. Same here.
yeah, we were sticking to our guns with that one and just didn't want to do it. So I wouldn't say we failed at it, but we failed at it. We also, we've done many events over the years, and we've had, not because we've failed, but they were very successful. But I feel like we would need a team of like 50 people to do all the things that we want to do. And we just don't have time. Now that we have our restaurant, and the inn was not actually our idea. It was my husband's sister's idea. She started it in 1999 and was very successful at it. It's on the farm. It's been a wonderful business. And we actually we inherited that business in 2018. So that added to our plate as well. And that is kind of why we're at this kind of retraction mode here in 2023, needing to kind of step back a little bit and reassess. And yeah, I think it's great to try things. It's like going to school for the first time. You don't know what you're going to major in. So you got to like get all this stuff out of the way, and then you figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. Right. So I think we
new stuff and fail.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we've tried it all, everything from brewing to making cider to maple sugaring to pretty much everything.
Kate, I think you're doing enough. I think you guys are doing enough.
Yeah, now we have a restaurant.
I know. When I got all your information, I was like, wow.
Yeah. But y'all do cider and beer, don't y'all?
Yeah, so it's not, we don't actually produce it, but we partner with a whole bunch of breweries and cideries, and it's everything that we put on our tap list comes from New England.
Okay.
For the most part. Once in a while, we'll bring something in from somewhere further afield, but it is mostly New England brewed, and a lot of the fruit and hops are also grown in New England, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, and then kombucha. We've got a guy across the river in Vermont who makes a kombucha for us, and it's amazing. Yeah, so really, working on trying to support just the local economy where we are. So all the different producers that sell to us, including, our own farm, which we're supporting with the restaurant now, really. That's what it's all about for us, is just keeping this a viable area because food security is, national security, really.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
We
need
really
food.
admire what you guys are doing, because it brings us, like, it inspires us to kind of like see the models. And that's one thing, like, anybody that is in our audience, like APA, becoming a member, participating in that is just going to kind of like tap it. Like, if you're trying to go into doing this kind of life and have a business, if you're business oriented, this is an organization for you to become a part of, is the message that I want to give people. And I want to thank you both for participating. This went, like, we usually keep this at 1 hour, but you just had like information that we just kept asking. So I really want to thank you both for joining us and sharing information and giving of your time to share your experience, because we always like to learn from people that have experience like you guys.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thanks for having us. I've gotten so much help from folks over the years that I love help. I've loved doing the same thing if I can with other folks.
Paying it forward.
Right.
Paying it forward.
Yeah.
We all start somewhere, and we can all think back to the people that shaped our desires to do what we're doing. So it's pretty cool.
Hopefully, we'll see all of those folks that have been listening at the next APA conference in Dallas.
Yes,
we put a
yes.
link. So anybody in here or watches it after the play, there's a link. Go to the APA.org link that we put. Definitely consider coming part of this community.
Yeah.
It's very valuable.
Be sorry. It'll be fun. We're going to have a good time.
Yeah, it's definitely fun.
Yeah. It's better than any of the like homesteading kind of conferences I've ever been to over the past 3 years. This one turned me out. It made me feel like it was the only one I would want to go to.
Yeah.
Even the seasoned producers feel that way too. So that's saying something, I feel
No
like.
question.
Yeah. It's our favorite too.
I couldn't miss it. No.
Yeah, the app and everything was very organized.
Yeah, the app blew me away.
Yeah, the app sold me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I still talk to some of the presentations and stuff that was going through there just from the app. It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, it's great to hear your feedback too about the
Yes, it is.
because when you're on the other side of it, it's like, did we do a good job?
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to post this link into the thread that they had put out today for the newsletter thing. So I appreciate y'all so much. And for everybody watching the replay, like I said, we do this once every Saturday. Try to do it every Saturday.
We try to do it the first Saturday of every month. It doesn't always work out.
It's from 7 p.m. That's about it. I appreciate y'all. And hopefully we'll see y'all at the next convention.
Well, if it's in Dallas, we'll definitely see you.
Yeah, it'll be in the same place. So
that's right.
We're gonna get a hotel room this time.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Stay.
Yeah.
Get in early because they get reserved quickly.
I saw. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in and taking the moment of your time. And until next time, let's grow together.
Let's grow together. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.